Hello and welcome back to screeningboo.com. So now we understood how you can do the for loop in arrays and for each loop. Let's try to go IntelliJ and also do the same thing ourselves. So I'm actually going to go source and do Java class. I'm going to do here for loop in arrays. I'm actually going to click OK, and in here and create public static void main string alright. So in here I'm actually going to create num list 121.9 4.4 312.5. Forgot to add the semicolon in there. So now you can also do new, right, double, just like we did before, right? So you could do that way, but also you don't have to do this new double, because when you learned about an array, so what we did is it's a double num list, and I created a new double with the semicolon, and I put all the elements in this curly braces. So you don't have to do this, you can just do this. So now if you want to print all the array elements, okay, I'm actually going to defer into I equal 0, and I is less than num list length, and I plus plus. So now in system.println, I'm actually going to do num list, and in here I put I, just like that. So with this, again here, I'm going to explain it again here, starting with I equals 0, right? Because index, the array starts from 0, right? It's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I want to print out each element, I started with 0, and 0 is less than numList.length. So when you do numList.length, it will give you the number of elements. So I've got 4 here. So 0 is less than 4, yes. So it's going to print out numList, that iteration, which is I equals 0. Right? So your I was 0 on the first iteration, so now your numList 0 is going to be 121.9. Second time I equal 1, because I've got this I++, so 1 is less than 4, yes, so now we're going to be numList 1, it's going to be 200.9. So now the third one here is going to be I equal 3, 3 is less than 4, yes, and it's going to print out numList 3, it's going to give you 312.5, right? Now the next one goes 4. 4 is less than 4. No, it's equal to 4, but not less than 4. So it's not going to run this code. So now let's actually run this and see what happens. So you can see here, we got 121.9, 200.9, 304.4, 312.5. So that's how you can actually print out all the elements. So now let's do the sum all the elements of an array. So I created initialize this variable sum, initialize sum variable, double sum, double data type, sum variable to be 0. Then I can do for loop in here, I again equals 0, I is less than numList length, I'm going to do I++, I'm going to do sum plus, I'm actually going to do numList of I. So when I do that, right, so first iterations is 0, right? So here, let's say start at 0, so 0 is less than numList.length 4, yes. So now your sum becomes, your sum equals to your sum was 0, 0 plus numList of 0 becomes 121.9. Right? So now the next one here, I is 1 after I increment 1. So now your I becomes 1. So 1 is less than numList of length, true. So now your sum becomes previous sum, which was 121.9 plus numList of that 1 here, this is 200.9. So it gives you the new sum value, right? So now the next one here, next iteration is 2. So now 2 is less than 4, yes. So it's going to come in here. So sum equals, so whatever this value, when you add this to, you're going to get a new value, right? That plus numList of 2 becomes 0, 1, 2, 304.4, right? and so on. So with that, you can also get the sum of all the elements in a different array. So I'm actually going to run this again, and you could see, oops, I'm actually going to print out the sum here is, alright, and you can see here why I print out sum not in here. Well, because you're going to actually get the final sum value once you're done with this for loop. That's why you're actually getting this sum in here. So now that's how you can actually do a for loop and find this sum. Let's run this one again, and it's going to say 939.7. So if you do this addition in your calculator, you're going to get the same value. So now if I do find the largest element of an array, so now I'm going to do max equal numList 0. So I'm actually initializing the maximum, the first element, an array element to be maximum, the largest element, I'm saying, largest element. Alright, so now I can do for loop again, int I equal 1, I is less than numList.length, and I plus plus, and in here, I'm actually going to do if, right, numList and I is greater than max, right, so actually going to be max equals to numList I. So what that basically means is compare the element with the largest element. If the next element is bigger or larger than the last maximum element or last element, then new element is the maximum or largest element, right? Simple as that. So what that basically means is that first, right, I'm starting with 1 because I've already said this is the largest element of an array. So I started with 1 because now I start with this second element because integer of 1, right? So index 1 gives me this one because I've already said this is my largest element here. So now I'm saying for loop I equal 1, so starting from 1 index, I is less than numList.length, so I've got 4. So in here, yes, then it goes into this for loop, right? So if numList I, so numList I becomes 1, numList 1 becomes 200.9, is greater than max. So I've already initialized this max as 121.9. Then your maximum value, since I've already initialized here, now this max value becomes that numList of whatever iteration you are. So numList of I, right, which is 1 here. So now your max is 200.9. So now the next one here is 3, right? 0, 1, sorry, 2. So now your I equal 2. 2 is less than numList.length, which is 4. So if numList of 2 is greater than max, so numList of 2 is 304.4, is greater than max, which was 200.9, and yes, then your now the maximum variable becomes that element, which is numList of 2, 304.4, and so on. So now let's print out the maximum value. I would say largest element in an array is, I'm going to say max. So now let's run this. And now it says the largest element of an array is 312.5. Now let's make it look interesting. So I've made it here 400.9, right? So now if you see here, the second element is the largest element. See what happens. Before it says 312.5, right? So I've changed this from 200 to 400, and let's run it again. Now it says here, the largest element of an array is 400.9, right? It said here, it went through all the loop. So here what happened here in this for loop is your 0, 1, your first index here is 1, right? So your 1 is less than numList.length, which is 4, yes. So now your num list of 1, which is 400.9, is greater than max, which is 121.9, which we initialized it here. Yes. So now your max is num list of 1, right, which is 400.9. So now in the second iteration here, which is I equal 2, now 2 is less than num list of length. Yes. So now here, look into this one here now. Num list of 2, which is 304.4, is greater than max. No, it's not. Right? So it's not going to do this code here. Okay? It's not going to run this code because your num list of 2 is 304.4 is not greater than 400.9. Right? And same thing with this one here. It's not greater than 400.9. And that's why it's not going to run this code here. You can see here, since I've made it 400, your sum is also different. So that's actually how you can use this for loop in arrays. Okay, and this is one of the very commonly asked interview questions. Okay, if they write you some code, they wanted to do find the largest element, find the smallest element of an array, find get the sum of the elements, and so on. So now let's actually create a new class here, and now we're going to actually do for each loop. I'm going to click OK. So I'm going to go to this next slide, and here again I'm going to do static void main string. Okay, so you hear sometimes I do string like that, and sometimes I do on here. Okay, you can do either way. Alright, so now here I'm actually going to do string celebrities, and in here we're going to do Bruno Mars and Taylor Swift, Max Smith. I'm going to drag a little bit here, and I'm going to say Eminem. Oops. Alright, so now here we're going to do actually for each loop. So you can do for each loop like this as well here. So when you do that, it's going to give you this one here. Okay, when I do for each loop, it gives me the syntax already. You see that? Alright, let me go back again here. So IntelliJ has this nice suggestions. Okay, so when I do for, it gives you either for each, or for I. I'm actually going to do for each. So if I do for each, it's going to give me the syntax here. So here I'm actually going to do string, the name and celebrities, and in here I'm actually going to do system.out.print. Instead of println, I'm going to do print. So here I'm actually going to do name, and I'm also going to print out the comma in here. Oops, that. So this is a for each loop. Okay, so let's actually do like this so it's easier to understand. I got for each loop, but it's actually going to loop on this celebrities array. So created a local variable called name, right? Since this is a string array, so I gotta make that variable string as well. Then, so your string name becomes Bruno Mars in the first iteration, and I'm printing that Bruno Mars and the comma in here. So now the next iteration, your name becomes Taylor Swift. Okay, so we're doing each loop in this array. So similarly, let's also create an age. I'm going to say 20, 22, 24, let's say 43. Alright, going to do for. So here I got to do int because this is an integer array. So I got to do int. Let's just put x. You can put whatever you want. And in here, I'm actually going to do age. And in here, I want to actually print out x, and also print out the comma in here. Okay, so let's print out the oops, forgot to do this. So I've got print here, print down in here. Let's see what happens. If I run this, alright, so you can see here, I got this Bruno Mars, Taylor Swift, Max Smith, Eminem, right? And I got this one here, right? And I also forgot, see here in the Eminem, I got Eminem, then comma, right? And then I got 20, which is my first element in here. Then after that, I'm actually printing out in each line. Okay, so I'm actually going to do this. So it's going to print out a new line. That. And let's run this. So you can see here, I've got print. Let's just do this, what happens. Alright, so that's better. So here, it's actually printing in the same line, right? Bruno Mars, Taylor Swift, Smith, Max Smith, Eminem. Then I got this new line here. I'm saying go to this new line, right? If I do print ln, it's going to have another line here, just like before. So now here, I'm actually doing a for each loop, but here I'm actually doing print ln, right? So it printed 20, right? And it's going to the new line. It's printed comma in here. Now again, it's pointing it to 22 and comma and so on, right? So actually, if you wanted to print out all the elements, it's better to just do print. So if I do this, and I will get like this: Bruno Mars, Taylor Swift, Max Smith, Eminem, 22, 22, 20, 20, 24, 43. That's how you can actually do for each loop. So we learned how you can actually do for loop and erase. Okay, this is also one of the very common things that you're going to do in your real time, right? Where you can have a lot of arrays, right? You're going to create a lot of arrays, and you're going to be doing a lot of looping. All right, so that's it for this lecture. I will see you guys in our next lecture.